Alright traders, welcome back to the channel, and I'm not talking about AMC today for once on the channel. I'm going to go over my favorite stocks for this week specifically and things that I'm looking for, at least with the option side of things. Now, it's very important to know these are just setups that I am personally looking for. These are things that I want to happen, and if things start playing out as I expect them to, then I will hop into positions and start playing them in order to make some money on the option side of things. I will also be posting more information and stuff like that and updates down below. The link will be there for my Twitter. I'm there all day long, but let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to the stocks.
I got no drip in my pocket. Must have forgot it, or maybe
Okay, so we have a few things going on this week, earnings being a very key focal part of this. And before we hop into some of these earnings plays, I want to talk about the really big setup in my opinion, and it's actually going to be BTC, USD, Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has tremendous room to run. And now if you don't know, let's talk about some of the key reasons going on. Now, about right here, you had Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey talking about the future scale of Bitcoin, and kind of Jack Dorsey siding with Bitcoin and Elon kind of coming back over to that side. You also heard Amazon this weekend announce that they're potentially going to be accepting Bitcoin in the coming few months, and then over the next 2 to 3 years creating their own crypto. Now, long term, this might not be strong for Bitcoin, but it does show the adoption process and that Bitcoin is moving in the right direction. Amazon would be most likely the huge and largest listing that it's ever had. So keep that in the back of your minds. I'm looking at that as well. But as we look at this chart, it's absolutely bullish. You've seen great touches and holds of that weekly range. Now pushing the monthly. I think we hit 35K very, very soon. You hit like 34.9, so you basically hit that range, but I think you have more room to come up, and once you get above 35, you're going to start seeing a quick run to 37, possibly even 40K. But what does this mean for stocks? Because obviously I'm not just trading Bitcoin leverage. So few of the stocks I'm looking at, the safest one long term, and it hasn't had any traction just yet, and I'm telling you, this is the one that all the hedge funds are buying. So if you want to bet with smart money, Coinbase, ticker symbol COIN, is most likely the best and safest ticker if I'm looking at something like Leaps, but I still think I could still make 100 to 200% on any type of investment over the next 2 to 1.5 months just with crypto plays. That's my personal opinion. So I think there's tons of room to go, and honestly, you can see you're at this bottom right now. The risk is very low. You haven't had any of these retests yet, so I'm telling you, I think this train will start going very quick. And a few other honorable mentions. We got Mara. This is one of the more volatile ones, bull flagging now. Tons of room to run. I think $29, $28 is coming very soon for this one. So that's my Bitcoin. That's what I think about that. I think it's going to be one of the biggest plays over the next few months. So keep right there. The next thing we're looking at, not earnings, but earnings are coming up very soon. This is US oil. And I know I've had a lot of people on Twitter, we kind of have the battle going, is oil bullish or bearish? Obviously, I'm a big oil bear bull. Sorry, I'm fighting the bear so much on Twitter, I don't know what I am anymore, right? So oil's trending back up. You saw a full scale retracement, right? Now let's look at oil stocks like Exxon. It has not done that. It's came back down. It's flagging back on the downside. It still has the pressure. It still looks very good. But look at that. Earnings are coming up. And I don't know if I need to remind people, but look what happened last earnings. Same pattern. You shot it before, you flagged down, and then boom, skyrocket, just straight up. Because guess what? The price of oil is still very high. Even though they increased the output from OPEC, guys, the next few earnings are still going to shred because of how oil comes back into the market. So for example, if the price per barrel starts to drop, which right now it's really not even dropping, it's actually going back to what it was, and it'll probably go to $80 very soon, pushing Exxon and most of these other oil stocks to local highs. Food for thought. But even if the price per barrel drops, the underlying price of gasoline won't be affected for at least 6 months, which puts these earnings plays into a great position. And I say 6 months, we can even be a little bit on the safer, more conservative side and say 3 to 4 months, but still leaves you great time for earnings to go right back up. And as you can see, oil isn't even retracing, and Exxon is. This is a great note going into earnings. I'm an absolute bull when it comes to these guys going into August and September. I think you have plenty of room to run. easily could retest 64.65. On the more conservative side, you have 59.60 right there. I'd be looking at that. But let's get into earnings for this week coming up. The first thing I'm going to mention is going to be Pinterest, P-I-N-S. Now, we just saw Snapchat demolish earnings and they went rocketing. And that's part of the reason you're seeing Pinterest go so wild over the past, Friday and Thursday, right? So I think Pinterest has enough gas in the tank, most likely prior to earnings, to push $81. Now, that's going to be a really big statement, I understand, but I do think it's possible prior to earnings, which is going to be Thursday. Now, I'm not trying to hold through earnings, but if there was a play I'd be willing to hold through earnings, it would be Pinterest, because over the past 4 to 3 earnings they've had, they've been absolutely demolishing just with the way that we are restructuring tech here in America. I'm telling you, Pinterest has lots of room to beat. If Snapchat beats so bad, I do anticipate Pinterest because they have a more profitable business model. Now, the next 2 things I'm going to talk about are going to be more to warn people and to show people possibly what can happen. Now, I anticipate personally that the earnings for Apple will be really good. Now, they were also really good way back here in April. But guess what happened? You topped off and you came back down. That's just what happened with some of these bigger tech plays. You were seeing great earnings, but nothing was really happening. Now, Apple's had a great run over the past week and the week before. You're just seeing massive runs back to the upside. Maybe you make a nice high. I just wouldn't bet on a clear break and finding a crazy new high in price discovery with this going on. So I think betting on Apple and then betting on the next stock, which is going to be Facebook, is very risky, just so everyone knows. And I just want to point this out that you can have monster earnings, and they did end up smashing here, but they retraced after dividends, bottomed out, and then popped back up. So keep that in the back of your mind that they don't have to start running now. I do anticipate the next earnings are going to be absolutely crazy because they do have the new announcement of the new iPhone. So maybe that gets pushed in here, but over the next 2-3 months, I anticipate Apple to have a really nice run going into the holiday season once again. So keep that on your book, but I would be very cautious with betting huge on Apple and Facebook just because they've already had such crazy runs up over the past few weeks. Now, Facebook is the one I want to talk about, and I kind of just mentioned, right? So you saw this huge gap up last time, but you're getting it the week before earnings. And this could be in part because of how Snapchat and Twitter are all doing, and they kind of fall into the same category of social media. So I want that to be pointed out. And I'm just talking about this because I don't want people to get caught in these trades being overly bullish. And I do think some people are just FOMOing in after seeing some of these crazy runs, but you just need to be very cautious. It's the same overall trend that we had here. You saw I had it marked right here. You have that little wedge coming down and you have the same wedge coming here. So you're getting the same breakout, really strong bullish push. I just encourage people to be very, very cautious, not financial advice. I'm just trying to keep people on edge because anything can happen. And we've seen these have really bad dips post earnings. And if you know anything about earnings, you can really get IV crushed. All right, so it's definitely a different type of weekly rundown, but I think it's very important that I tackle those into just so people can start getting some more education out of these videos as well. I do plan on doing more education videos in the coming month, especially as we get the website up and running. But I want people to be cautious about being overly bullish because really that is the thing. Stocks don't just go up. However, the first 2 I mentioned, Pinterest and Coinbase, and then some of the other crypto stocks, I think the ones that I mentioned are very safe. Mara, Riot, and Coin. Those are big, well-known names that have been tested before. So those are going to be the safer picks. You can go with the low caps, but those, again, are very, very risky. But keep those in the back of your mind. Pinterest, I think they're going to kill earnings as well. And I think they're a little bit more slept on, and they're very volatile. So just be careful there. But I think those are really great plays and things I'll be watching for. If you have any questions about anything that I went over in this video, or if you just think I'm flat out wrong, please comment down below. I'd appreciate the dialogue. Like, subscribe, do what you got to do. We'll be back tomorrow. Namaste.
Don't got enough to go cop it. I'm about to take off like a rocket. Houston, we